your car say about you? Well, if it's a Honda City, it says you're safe, you're dependable, you're reliable, just like the Honda City. But is it reliable? Well, it's a little bit complicated. Welcome to Half Price Heroes. This time we're taking a look at the 4th generation Honda City. You can get a used one of these for as little as 5 lakh rupees. But buying one can be a little tricky. Thankfully, we are here to help. Before we begin though, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that bell notification icon to stay notified. Honda has been using the City name in Japan since 1981, with the first couple of generations being proper city cars. We got the City in 1998 when it was already in its 3rd generation internationally and had grown into a small sedan. All previous generations of the City were excellent cars in their own right, but we are focusing our attention on the 4th generation City, sold in India between 2014 and 2020. The 4th generation City carried over the 1.5 litre iVTEC engine from the previous generation, but that's no bad thing. This is quite a nice engine. It's smooth, it's eager to rev, typically Honda, and there's a noticeable kick in performance when the VTEC kicks in at about 4500 RPM. 117 bhp and 145 Newton meters doesn't sound like much today, but in reality it is pretty sprightly, especially when you pair it with the 5-speed manual. The City also came with an optional CVT that even had paddle shifters, but even then it had that typical rubber band effect that you expect from CVTs. Although Honda did try to mimic a normal automatic gearbox by giving it steps, even then it's not really an enthusiast focused gearbox. If you drive a lot in the city though, it does make a lot of sense. The 4th gen City also came with a 1.5 litre iDTEC diesel engine for the very first time. Now, Honda isn't exactly known for making diesels, but this was a pretty decent engine from reports of the time. 98 bhp, 200 Newton meters of torque, and superb fuel efficiency. But there are a few downsides. Refinement was one, but the other big downside is reliability is a bit patchy, but we'll get into that later. In my opinion, the petrol version is the one to have. It's refined, reliable, fun to drive, and gets up to 17 kmpl on the highway. The 4th gen Honda City was on sale till 2020, overlapping slightly with the 5th gen. While early models are available for as low as 4 lakhs, it's worth stretching a bit to get the newest version your budget allows. The City came in a bunch of different variants, so here's a quick rundown for your reference. From launch in 2014 until the facelift in 2017, there were 6 variants. There was the E, the S, the SV, the V, the VX and the VXO. The CVT was available only on the SV and the VX, while the diesel manual and petrol manual was available across all variants. Now let's break down all the variants. The base E got just the driver's airbag, ABS, power windows, mirrors, but not much else. The S added an integrated audio system with controls on the steering wheel, driver seat height adjustment, and that's about it. The SV included passenger airbag, automatic climate control, cruise control, rear AC vents, and front and rear armrests. The V offered a more advanced audio system with a 5-inch screen, rear parking camera, 15-inch alloy wheels, and fog lamps. Above this was the VX, which got a sunroof, leather seats, a smart key system with a push button start. And finally there was the VXO, which added only a 6.2-inch touchscreen audio system. This system is actually now quite dated, so it's not worth seeking out the VXO in particular. In 2017, the variants were revised. The base E was discontinued and dual airbags and ISOFIX mounts became standard across the board. The infotainment system grew to a 7-inch unit from the V variant onwards, and the VX got a 16-inch wheels instead of 15 inches and added LED lighting all around. Finally, the VXO was replaced with the ZX variant, which had side and curtain airbags, LED lighting all around, auto headlamps and wipers. If your budget can stretch to it, the ZX is definitely worth seeking out. Now that you've chosen the right variant, it's time to start your search. Honda Cities are common, so finding a used one is relatively easy. Honda's certified used car program, Honda Auto Terrace, offers cars with a warranty for peace of mind. But cities are often victims of odometer rollback, so be sure to check the vehicle's history and condition before buying. So this is the first thing you need to check when you come to inspect a Honda City, the odometer. But at the same time, also check the general wear and tear on the cabin. Does it correlate with the mileage that's been shown on the odometer. Also check the service history and quiz the owner about it. Next, check the consumables, the brakes and the tires in particular. The brakes on a city typically last 50,000 kilometers, so if a car has run less than that, it should be on its original brakes. Also take a look at the date code on the tire. Is it newer than it needs to be? This car is a 2020, the date code also shows that it's a 2020 tire, that means this is the original set of tires. Make sure all of these things are verified by the seller. Next, check the bodywork because the city has been known to rust. Not all of them, but some owners have reported rusting regardless of whether or not they live close to the ocean. So bring the car out into the open and check these following areas. Starting with the front, check the edge of the bonnet right here. You could see some bubbling right here. Moving to the fenders, check the edges here, around the wheel liners right here. Also check the bottom of the A-pillar. Here you could spot some rusting. Bottom of the door is another common area where rusting does happen. Open the door, there's a drain hole right here. This does tend to get blocked and the door will rust from inside out, so make sure you check that. Same thing on the back door. The bottom of the fender here and here is prone to rusting. And finally, moving on at the back, check these edges right here. And finally, open the boot and check the bottom of the windscreen. This is another problem area. You might see rust right here and even here. On a side note, the Honda City's headlamps and tail lamps are prone to misting up due to faulty rubber seals. Check the door seals and sunroof beading as well, as they can deteriorate, letting water into the cabin. So what do you need to check on a test drive? Well, Honda reliability is not a myth. They are generally very reliable cars, but there are still a few checks you need to do. Do all your usual checks. Check for strange noises coming from the engine, from the suspension, from the clutch, from the brakes. But on a city in particular, listen out for rattles and squeaks coming from the interior, especially from the dashboard. Those can be a pain to sort out. A few owners also complain about the city's high-speed stability, and that is not an inherent flaw with the car. It's mostly down to worn-out suspension, worn-out tires, or even bad alignment. But combine that with the city's light steering, and it can feel a little unstable at high speeds, and therefore a more detailed inspection at a workshop is necessary. As always, it is highly recommended to bring a car to a trusted workshop for a pre-purchase inspection. Your mechanics will be able to spot issues that you might not notice, but here are a few things that you need to check. First, put the car up on a lift and check for more rust. Check the rocker panels, check the floor. Also remember, the city has only 165 mm of ground clearance, so check for any damage from bottoming out on speed bumps. Next, check the suspension and the brakes. The city suspension can wear pretty quickly on bad roads, so make sure you give everything a good shake, listen out for some noises coming from the suspension, and check the dampers for any leaks. Also take a look at the brakes. The discs and the pads typically last around 40,000 or 50,000 kilometers. Some owners only replace the pads, leaving the discs as it is, so make sure you check the discs for a lip. That means a big bill might be waiting for you ahead. The petrol engine on the city is very reliable, but because of this, owners tend to defer maintenance. So make sure that the maintenance schedule has been followed. Check all the paperwork, check the service history for that. For instance, the fuel filter on the city needs to be replaced every 80,000 kilometers. That is frequently forgotten. Also, the CVT transmission needs to be serviced every 40,000 kilometers. If that has not been done, it could lead to serious problems, and replacing the transmission can cost up to 4 lakh rupees. Another problem is a grinding noise coming from the alternator belt, which is not fixed by replacing the belt itself. It usually stems from the idler pulley or sometimes the alternator itself. The ABS light, if it is on as well, then the ABS modulator may have failed, which can cost up to 40,000 rupees to replace. The city diesel, on the other hand, is generally quite reliable, but some owners report some serious issues. First is with the timing chain. Now this can stretch, wear out the plastic guides, and eventually lead to engine failure. So make sure you check for that. Another more serious issue is reports of literal holes being punched out of the cylinder block and the cylinder head. Now the reason for this is debated. Some say it is because of a lack of an oil cooler, while others say it's just corrosion in the aluminium. Whatever the reason, it will be easy to spot this because oil will be spilling from the engine. But make sure that your mechanic checks for previous repairs for this same problem. Now I know that's a lot, but don't be discouraged. All of these problems that I spoke about are the exception and not the norm. Make sure that you check the car thoroughly. Do not rely on Honda's reputation for reliability when you're buying a car. When you do end up buying your car, make sure you get it fully serviced. And to give you an idea what that might cost, here's a list of commonly replaced parts. Now let's take a look at some mods. Now the city has moved away from its boy racer image, but if you still want to go in that direction, then Honda themselves offered a full body kit and a rear spoiler for this city. You could try and source a set of that for your car. Also in terms of wheels, this car is running 15s, but the later models, the ZX, used to have 16-inch wheels with 185/55 section tires. You could source a second-hand set of that as well. Some owners complain that the headlamp bulbs, the halogens, are pretty weak, so an LED headlamp bulb upgrade will fix that for sure. And finally, the audio system, the touchscreen infotainment system in particular, is now pretty laggy. So an upgraded system like the Blaupunkt one in this car is a definite upgrade. And finally, how much to pay. At the time of making this video, early 4th gen Honda Cities were available for as little as 4 lakh rupees, and later cars can command as much as 10 lakhs. Petrols with a CVT command a premium, while the diesels aren't quite as popular because of the higher maintenance costs. The Honda City is a great used car that can provide years of reliable service if it has been properly maintained. But just like any other car, if it has been neglected, it can quickly turn into an absolute money pit. So don't buy it with your eyes closed just because it's a Honda. As always, if you found this video useful, please do give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, and stay tuned for more videos just like this.